It's Emil. It's Emil Guillermo. Emil Amok to you, speaking into your ear or looking right at you, wherever you're watching us on YouTube, on X. You know, Elon Musk is in trouble. You know that where he's giving away $1 million to voters, that might be illegal. In fact, people who look at the law, they say, you know, you can't give something $1 million, something of value, $1 million to registered voters, because it essentially you're asking people for their votes and you're paying money for them. Now, that's going to have to be something that is brought up in a court of law, but he's done that, and he owns X, and maybe X is his cash cow, or was. I know he's losing money on it, but giving away $1 million to try to influence an election, that's a no-no. I'm not a lawyer. I even know that. Anyway, welcome to my Takeout, Emil Amok's Takeout, my takes on all things considerable. We just follow the news, as a newsman is wont to do. I've won a few of those awards in the past. I want to live in the present. And in the present, I'm kind of a columnist, commentary person, analyst, talking about the news. And we put our stuff out here. And then you can go to Patreon and get the full-blown Emil Amok treatment, patreon.com/Emil Amok. I appreciate your support. I mean, I'm doing this as my civic duty as an Asian American with a civic nature, right? Yeah, because the subtitle of the show is WDAAT. What does an Asian American think? That would be WDAAT. What that? And, you know, we do this show. It has an Asian American feel. Last week, we put our first column that we're going to put on ASAM News. ASAM News. It's a great resource. It's a community resource. It's a nonprofit. You know, I have contributed to most all the Asian American sources out there. I was one of the first writers at NBC News, Asian America. I mean, can imagine a big for-profit like NBC News getting grant money to do things for Asian. I mean, don't they make enough money to go out on their own and just cover Asian America? So anyway, I that was like 10 years ago. My stuff is still up there, but I'm not really officially still contributing there, but I am contributing to my columns. Have a place at asamnews.org, and check them out because they are comprehensive. In fact, if you didn't know that certain people were Asian American, they'll tell you, hey, you know, Tommy Edman, NL Championship MVP, LA Dodgers, Korean American. Hey, Dave Roberts, Asian American. His mother, Korean. Hey, Otani, of course. I mean, this is the thing about, they get it right. They talk about Asian Americans, and they're in places that you don't know, and they'll talk about things that you won't hear about in other places. Like, did you know that a woman was assaulted in D.C.'s Chinatown and told to go back to China? Now, I lived and worked in D.C. for a number of years, 10, a while ago, but still 10 years there. I used to go to D.C. Chinatown, and it's supposed to be gentrified. But when people are telling Asian people in Chinatown to go back to China, we've gone backwards. Anyway, you get news like that at asamnews.com. They are a nonprofit, but go to asamnews.com. And, you know, you'll find my column there, which is, you know, I think it's a great thing that they are a place for me. Also, I want to mention that on October 26th, UC Berkeley between 9 and 4, they're having a big common ground benefit to benefit them. If you want tickets, you can email me. I got a couple tickets. I'll help you out. But it's at UC Berkeley, October 26th. I'm not going to be here, so unable to attend. But you can check out. Email me at emilamuk@gmail, and I'll hook you up if you're still looking for tickets. Now, one other thing about ASM News, like I said, they look at pop culture, they look at sports, they look at all these things around the community. Like one thing they're talking about now, Blackpink's Rosé and Bruno Mars are teaming up for a new single, Apt, or I guess that's Apartment. But, you know, where are you going to get that kind of news? ASAMnews.com. They are a home for Emil Amok's Takeout. Check it out on Wednesdays generally. And I mention that because, my regular readers or people who know who I am, they will know that my column has appeared in Asian American publications since 1995. Actually longer, but on a weekly basis since 1995. Asian Week out of San Francisco for 14 years, and for the last, or actually make that 15 years, and for the last 14 years, it's been on the ALDEF side, the Asian American Legal Defense and Education Fund, aldef.org/blog, and the old columns of the last 15 years are going to be there, because this the 29th year. Next year is going to be the 30th. But this year was the last year for Margaret Fung to be executive director, and they're changing things, and one of the things they're going to do, they're going to change the website, and it was a good time for me to depart for putting my column there. But the old columns will be up there for a while at aldef.org/blog. See what I've written about the campaign so far. But from here on, you can catch my columns on ASAMnews.com. Also, Substack. I'm putting my columns on substack.com/@EmilAmok, and also on patreon.com/EmilAmok. So lots of places to get me. And then, of course, I do this thing, which is really talking about the news and being with you. And it's a great place to just catch up with Emil, saying, where have you been? How are you? And I had that moment yesterday. And I'll tell you about it in a second. I was at the Oakland Museum in, of course, Oakland. They had a big Filipino event, and I'll talk to you about that in a second. But first, I want to mention how my one-man show, actually a portion of my one-man show, will be at the Marsh on November 4th. It's a Monday. And if you're so anxiety-ridden about the upcoming election and you want something else to take your mind off it briefly, somehow, I mean, yeah, we're going to vote. See the VOTE background. But I'm doing my show, or an excerpt of my show, Trans Dad, November 4th at the Marsh, 7 p.m. That's the Marsh in San Francisco. Go to the Marsh at, I believe it's themarsh.org, and look for Monday Night Marsh, and look for Emil Guillermo, Trans Dad. I'm doing a segment of my one-man show play, 20 minutes. I'm sharing the stage with two other performers that night. And at 7 o'clock, it should be fun. November 4th, all the proceeds go to the Marsh. I'm not getting any, I'm just getting the stage time, not getting the remuneration from your tickets. But you know what? The Marsh deserves your support, and I think it's a great deal. You go there, support the Marsh. They support artists like myself. You get different voices on these Monday Night Marsh programs. Some people like the Monday Night Marsh format more than, say, some of the other shows, because you get a variety. It's different. Anyway, check out my show, Emil Guillermo's Trans Dad. I'm doing a segment from it, November 4th. Trans Dad, Emil. What are you talking about? Well, you're going to have to see. The Marshes in San Francisco at 10, is that 1062 Valencia Street? I want to get it right because I don't want to send you to the wrong place. Yeah, 7, the doors open at 6:30, Mondays at 7 p.m. It's all part of the great Monday Night Marsh series. You can see it in person at the Marsh, 1062 Valencia. At my old stomping grounds. I went to school up the block at Edison Elementary years ago. And I essentially grew up in Valencia, Guerrero, Dolores Park, my stomping grounds. Anyway, November 4th, 7 o'clock, you can go to themarsh.org/Monday-night-marsh-stream and get tickets there. Support the Marsh. If you can't make it, if you're in some, if you're far away, check it out on Zoom. You can click there on Zoom to watch. But it's sliding scale, $13 to whatever. And tickets also available at the door. So a good set of artists have come through. There was, let's see, a number of people here. A good friend of mine, Ginger Parnas, was there. I'm going to be there. I'm going to be there with Marion Levinger. And who else? Who else is going to be there with me? Oh, and Susan Evans and Marlene Smith. So it's a fun show or a fun night. And I think you'll like it. You'll like it. And if you like what I do, just keep in mind, I'm doing a lot of different things. I'm going to be doing this show, hopefully in New York, also doing this show in Fresno at the Rogue Festival. So I just want to inform you about what Emil Amok, the solo performer. Also, around town, I do open mics and perform a stand-up comedy, which is it's a stage performer looking for stage time. But sometimes it's funny. Anyway, Trans Dad, vegan Trans Dad. And if you need an explanation for that, you're just going to have to see the show. All right. This weekend was strange. It was strange because I did not give in to the tyranny of the NFL, the National Football League. I would not give in. I would not say I'm going to sit and I'm going to watch the 49er game because I'm a 49er fan. And, will they beat the Chiefs at the fifth time? Maybe the fifth time is a charm. They've never beaten the Chiefs. I refused. I said, I'm not going to watch the game. The 49ers aren't playing me to play. I don't really care about them that much. I mean, I care about other things. Football, in perspective. You got to put it in perspective. So instead, I answered an invitation of a friend who said, Emil, you must go to see John Calloway's performance musical piece on the Buffalo Soldiers at the Oakland Museum. And I said, I accepted the ticket. I went there and it was great. If you weren't at the Oakland Museum this Sunday or last Sunday, I don't know if they're going to repeat it again, but it was a great 1 hour multimedia musical performance with poetry and music, great jazz, great story, and it gave you all the feels of the Buffalo Soldier story and combined it with all the feels of Filipino American History Month, which October is, from October 15th to the 31st. Now imagine that. We have something in common with Black history in the sense that Black history is February and they always complain, hey, we got the shortest month. Filipino American history is October, October, but then they only really celebrate the last 2 months. So somewhere we're getting shortchanged here. And that's because the first 2 months is part of Hispanic American history or Hispanic Heritage Month from September 15th to October 15th. So whoever put these things together. Anyway, so this was really the first real weekend for Filipino American history, and the timing of it to bring John Calloway's music. He's a musical lecturer instructor at San Francisco State. He has brought this project forward with poets, with dancers, with jazz music, with Kulintang music. It's a great experience, and a slideshow and documents and letters, and you get the feeling of what the Buffalo Soldiers went through and how they experienced the Philippine-American War, which is the war that no one likes to talk about, right? But it's a part of our history, and if we're going to talk about it at all, we should talk about it in October, Filipino-American History Month. Now, here's the thing about John Calloway. His grandfather was a Buffalo Soldier, and if you look at John, you say, well, you're not really quite sure what race he is. He's multiracial. He's Filipino and white and black, or Filipino and black, right? And black on the side of his father. His mother was Filipina, so he's got some Filipino in him. He grew up in San Francisco, and this is how small the world this is. I go there, and of course, I go there, sit down, watch a show. Great show. Clap, clap, clap. We get up, and oh my God, a friend of mine who gave me this gong. This gong belonged to her mother. She was there. Oh man, what? Hugs. What are you doing here? Well, I know those people. I know the dances. Know the same. Wow. Let me introduce you. And turns out we kind of know each other. And then there was another woman. Oh, what are you doing here? She was my catechism teacher. And he said, so do you know John? No, I don't know John. Did you know John grew up near where we went to catechism? Hey, he was in the neighborhood. And he's not much younger, older than I. And then John comes up, John Calloway, and says, Emil, yeah, hi. And turns out John just remembered me when I was, on that news station when it was good. And he said, Emil, yeah, how are you? And other people still remembered me as, the Filipino guy on the news who wasn't the murderer, but you were the guy reporting on the murder. I mean, it was like, oh my God, all these chords of communication and connection are hit. It just said, hey, this is the community. And it's all coming together right there at the Oakland Museum. And, I think I was last in the Oakland Museum years ago, before they had the new building. The new building is like this fortified place. It looks like it's riot proof. The arts and everything that's worthy of being in a museum is going to be protected. I mean, it is a fortress of culture, a fortress of everything that is museumifiable. Museumifiable? Is that a word? I was kind of impressed. It was like an open campus, and then you multi-level, and impressed by the little theater we were in. It probably held about 150 people or so. And it was just a remarkable place for community gathering, because there are Filipinos and blacks and whites, and it was a mixed race crowd, just like Calloway himself. And the story was our story, our legacy about John Calloway's grandfather, African American, served as a Buffalo Soldier, went to the Philippines, and was there, married a Filipina, and his family then came to America. And it's just an incredible story about the biracial nature of the Filipino American community, especially with the African American community, and how it is a bond that is really, it's solidified by history. This is our history. And so you have John Calloway's, they read from John Calloway's letters. And John Calloway also wrote for the Richmond, Virginia Planet, which was an African American newspaper. And if you're a Buffalo Soldier, you not only went to the Philippines to fight, you went to the Philippines to report what was really going on. Because remember, the reason the Buffalo Soldiers went there is they were there because they fought the western part of the U.S., segregated army, right? They kept the Indians on the reservations. They kept the white peoples out. But they pretty much were there to battle the Indians, right? And then afterwards, they were redistributed throughout the land. Some went to Cuba and Puerto Rico, or Cuba, and some others went to the Philippines. John Calloway went to the Philippines. And they went to the Philippines because the United States, with its imperialistic vision, wanted to colonize the Philippines. And they won the Philippines in the Spanish-American War. But the Filipinos declared their independence and said, we're the Philippines. We're going to fight you for our freedom. So there was a Philippine-American War, and the Buffalo Soldiers went there to fight the Filipinos on behalf of the U.S. And some were so taken by the Filipinos and their spirit and how badly misrepresented they were, they realized, why am I fighting the Filipinos? One, a very famous soldier deserted, David Fagan, but another, John Calloway, did not desert, but realized the Filipinos were not as represented by the U.S., and he had to deal with that fact. He stayed in the Philippines afterwards, but some of his realization is that he saw how the Filipinos and the African Americans had much more in common than not. How they were actually together. And how the fate of the Filipinos would probably be like the fate of the Southern blacks. And it was a bonding moment for John W. Calloway. And now, years later, decades later, his grandson, the educator, John Calloway, the educator jazz musician, has put together this great piece that gives you all the feels. And it's like going to a museum exhibit, right? You see pictures, there's a little bit of factual information, but mostly there's the evidence. Museums are to show the evidence of what happened, to give you a feeling of an experience of the truth. And when you leave in a more thoughtful way than when you arrived. And so in terms of the performance and the music and the poetry and the readings, it was very successful. It was a tremendous, the The performers were great. And at the end, there was a coming together, people greeting each other. It was really, and like I said, I saw all these people that I hadn't seen in a while. Oh, Emil, you're here. The Oakland, and that actually is a function of what a good museum is about. Good museums have events that bring people together, that make people see this common ground and help people to understand something about their culture, past and present, so that they can look forward and work on making society better in the future. So, was that worth giving up the Kansas City Chiefs handing the 49ers their hat? Is that the phrase? They got their hat handed to them. I think that's the phrase. There's something more vulgar that I could probably think of. I don't know. The vulgar scale this weekend just went off the charts when Donald Trump started talking about Arnold Palmer, another athlete. Boy, Arnold Palmer, why is Arnold Palmer trending? It wasn't because of, people were ordering iced tea and lemonade, which is the classic Arnold Palmer. Although recently I had a friend I met with who ordered his version of Arnold Palmer, but he ordered lemonade and Coke Zero to his specifications. He liked the 60-40 mix as opposed to 50-50. 60-40 Coke Zero to lemonade. Everyone has their own taste. But yeah, if you missed it, you know that Arnold Palmer was mentioned by Donald Trump at the home of Arnold Palmer, Latrobe, which is also the birthplace of Rolling Rock beer. And Donald Trump said that, this is Arnold Palmer's birthplace, and Arnold Palmer, what a great guy. And he said Arnold Palmer was all man. And but he wasn't just stopping at the man part. He was putting into your mind Arnold Palmer in the shower, et cetera, et cetera. And, that's why everyone's talking about Arnold Palmer. Arnold Palmer was a great golfer. In fact, I always liked Arnold Palmer more than the other great golfers of the time. Jack Nicklaus, I always liked Arnie better. And it was, Arnie had his army, and, Trump's a golfer. But, Trump kind of, made it with the vulgarity, has brought back the ghost of Arnold Palmer. And of course, no one is able to verify exactly what Trump said. But it's what Trump is saying. Now, here's the question. Why is Trump doing this? And I think it's pretty clear. Trump is doing this because by mentioning Arnold Palmer, he is kind of going into that heteronormative sort of world. Oh, this is normal. This is, this is what we do. We joke about these things because it coincides with a huge anti-trans ad buy in all the swing states. We may not see it in California if you're in California, but it's everywhere else. They're playing these ads talking about anti-trans. It's an issue. And it's an issue because it separates the regular from the normal. It shouldn't, because we're all normal. But in Trump's world, for people, it separates and peels off voters who may or may not be taken aback by the fact that there are trans people. There are transphobic people out there. This is what Donald Trump is doing. I mean, it's part of this multi-pronged attack But if you look at the amount of money spent in anti-trans ads by Donald Trump in swing states, it's astonishing how he's using this to be the thing that separates voters, right? If the way that politicians look at voters, they see them as, glommed together. Oh, 49, 49, 48, 40. It's very tight. You need to do some political fracking, and you go deep and you insert this venom, and it creates these cracks, and it separates the voters so the voters aren't like glommed together, and they're actually going off in different directions. And that's where you say, oh, those are the Trump voters, those are the Harris voters, and you hope to get more voters than the other guy. That's how you do it. I mean, when everyone's glommed together, it seems that, oh, well, then you're talking about the same kind of politician. We know that's not true. I mean, this is the astonishing thing. People don't believe that, oh, Harris is one way, Trump is the other way. And why doesn't Harris have a greater lead? If you want people who are good, if you want people who believe in the Constitution, clearly Harris does, Trump doesn't. Why isn't there a tremendous lead for Harris? That's something no one can understand. The only way that you can explain it is maybe people lie in the polls. And why would people lie in the polls? Because they don't want people to know how they truly feel. And why might they not want people to know how they truly feel? Because they are scared of the intimidation and of the bullying and the violence that could come if their true feelings are known. And that, to me, makes perfect sense. Because just ask yourself, how many Harris signs have you seen, in places? Now, when I was in Austin, Texas in September, I saw one or two Harris signs. I was beginning to see Harris t-shirts. I'm here in Northern California. I don't see any. I see more Trump signs in Northern California than I see Harris signs. I think it's because the Harris supporters I think they're scared. I think they don't want any trouble. And I think the Trump people, a fair amount of them, if you're not one of the mega types, they don't want people to know how they're voting either. I mean, we are in an intimidated sort of situation where no one wants to tell the truth because it's so revealing about yourself who you choose to vote for. I mean, you might see people come out within the last, we're in the 3 weeks away. Within the last 2 weeks, you might see people begin to come out. For example, Antonio Brown, Pittsburgh Steelers. He came out as saying he's for Trump. Black man for Trump. You're seeing the Central Park Five. They certainly aren't for Trump. In fact, just today, they announced a defamation lawsuit against Trump for all the things that Trump has said that are lies about the Central Park Five, which he's been saying for years. But as recently as the convention, he said, oh, these people are murderers. These people, it's a lie, right? No one was murdered. These people were set up. They were innocent. They were let go. And so a defamation suit is on, and Trump hasn't responded. But you're going to start seeing more of these in the last minute come on because, as they say, there is no tomorrow, and people are going to let it be known, but not too soon, and sometimes maybe even not then, because I still think a fair number of people would rather not say. would rather just avoid politics, would rather avoid getting into the divide. Although this is the time you got to do it because it might make a difference. But as I said, I walk around, I don't see any Harris signs. That's not a sign that people don't support Harris. That's a sign that people don't want any trouble. And there's enough talk of trouble that it's better to do your talking at the voting booth or to vote early and vote your conscience, vote by mail. Actually, they're saying that we probably will see fewer vote by mail, vote early. We're going to see fewer of those this time around, based on some projections by pollsters. I mean, like a 10% difference between the last time, 2020, and now, which is surprising to me, because I would think that a lot of people would want to vote by mail and vote early. But a lot of people are choosing, and here's the thing, voting early favors Harris. Voting late favors Trump. But Harris is ahead in vote by mail, like 4-1 over Trump. And Trump, hopefully, I guess, is thinking he'll make up the difference by in-person voting. But Trump has kind of laid the ground there because he told people not to vote by mail like the last time, and now he's saying, oh, you can vote by mail. Because everyone's fighting for every vote. And I'm telling you, it's such an intimidating atmosphere out there that I can see why some people don't want to say. Like at yesterday's thing at the Oakland Museum, no one openly said anything about the election. 3 weeks ago, Kamala Harris's birthday, did anyone say anything? No one said anything. I think we got to worry about intimidation. And because intimidation is real. I know someone who got an intimidating note in the mail in not a swing state, but in a state that is rabidly MAGA. And maybe it was sent to all the non-MAGA types to reconsider forms of intimidation. And, this is something that is not just some awkward electoral paranoia. Not when this past weekend we see Donald Trump once again say or come out with more enemy within talk. The enemy within. And who's he talking about? Is he talking about people, armed militias, fighting, the National Guard? He's not talking about white supremacists. When he talks about the enemy within, he's talking about people like Adam Schiff, congressman running for Senate of California. He's talking about Nancy Pelosi. He's talking about political enemies. He's talking about people with First Amendment rights, people who are Americans, people who have a right to say, to be in opposition. And it's Donald Trump with more of his dictator talk. Yeah, we got to deal with the enemy within. The enemy within. It's not a good look. And that should tell you why you should vote and who you should vote for. But it also explains why people might be skittish about declaring who they're for. And that's a bad thing. That kind of repression is a bad thing in America. And who's the perpetrator? A guy who wants to be president of the United States. So today you had Liz Cheney out there and Kamala Harris together. And You know, Liz Cheney's not perfect. Liz Cheney takes some horrible stands that would hurt people of color, but she does believe in the Constitution. And you got to have people at least on that same page. And she's enough of that same page, so she's voting and endorsing Kamala Harris. And this is where, hey, it's the Christian way. Love your enemies. Vote alike. That's a challenge. But it may be the thing that will bring victory to the Democrats. All right. We're going to end this because I want to end these things early enough. This is Emil Amok's Takeout. I do these things. I talk about the news. Oh, a reminder. Today's the 21st. If you're hearing this, listening to this on the 22nd, you might be out of luck. 21st is the day that you can still register to vote online in California. If you don't, and you miss a deadline, online, or you can do it in person. Go to the registrar's office in your county the 21st. Or if you're go to the post office, get the registrar, the voter registration form, have it postmarked with today's date, 10/21/24. And then you're good. If you don't do that, you're still not out of it, because you can vote conditionally, vote on the day you vote, or register on the day you vote conditionally, and cast a ballot conditionally. You'll be put in a separate pile that will be voted after everything, all the paperwork's taken care of. But you will have a chance to vote. So you're not totally out of luck. There's still the provisional registration and balloting. If you miss today's deadline, don't miss today's deadline. Okay, the 21st, today, Monday. Don't miss today's deadline. All right, like I said, I'm going to end this because I just think it's wise. You know, regular talk shows, they might last 2 hours or 3 hours, but you have all the commercials, and you don't have the talk and the insight of, a full 3 hours, because you have like all this other stuff, ads, whatnot, weather, traffic on the fours or wherever. And I don't have that. I just talk. So 45 minutes, that's like 3 hours worth of a talk show. 45 minutes. So catch this on patreon.com/Emil Amok. And I'll post my column tomorrow. Could have a big announcement tomorrow. Big announcement. Catch November 4th and the 18th. But you want to catch it November 4th, because then we got the tension of the election. November 18th, based on what happens on November 5th, it could be sad or happy. But I'm at the Marsh in San Francisco, 1062 Valencia. Go to themarsh.org/Monday-night-marsh-stream. That page, you'll find all the information about Emil Guillermo, trans dad. Check it out. And I'm part of I do a 20-minute excerpt from my show. You'll like it. All right. All right. What else? Yes, I told you about Patreon, Substack.com, also for the column. And yes, I got a haircut. Sometimes you just don't have time to get a haircut. And I thought, I'm a little shaggy, so I get a haircut. And hey, and I got to thank my pal Ron. Oh, what a job! He's a master tonsorialist, I think they're called. A master of the tonsorial arts. It has nothing to do with your tonsils. It has everything to do with the Are they pellicules? Pellicules? Hair. It's hair stuff. He's a brilliant tonsorial, tonsorially superior at Schnitz Salon. Schnitz Salon, and and because of my recommendation, he got a friend of mine to go see him, and like 10 years ago, it was like, and this is the thing, barbers are like legacy guys, like you get a barber and you just like are with him. You're with that barber for life. You just don't, and to show you how it's a legacy thing, Ron's father was my barber before Ron was. And you can go Google my name, Emil Guillermo, made me go straight. And then you'll see the story I wrote at SF Gate for Alphonse Skillendot, the great, and why he made me go straight, and you'll understand when you read it, and how Ron took over and has kept me straighter. Anyway, I got to mention it. I mean, he's a great guy, and sometimes you don't realize how important your tonsorial technicians are. Oh, he's not a technician; he's an artist. Your tonsorial artist is. It's important. It's important. Definitely important. Okay, that's it for today's show. Have an Arnold Palmer for lunch. You can do a variation. A friend of mine does Coke Zero and lemonade, which I think sounds ugh. But I guess, you take the sugar out of the zero or out of the Coke and make it Coke Zero, and then you add the sugar with the lemonade. Ugh. I don't know. Some people like that. So, I'll tell you one thing, and these aren't sponsors, but I have discovered a drink that they serve for the non-alcoholic crowd, liquid death. I don't know. Pretty good. I have to say, I've had to order a bunch of them because I've been to these clubs. It's the only non-alcoholic option is that brand, and pretty good. Although I am partial to hoppy water. Hoppy water. All right, that's it for our show. No laughter yoga today. You're going to have to go see it on patreon.com, because I'm a certified laughter yogi, and it's important. In fact, when you see me breathe like this, when I breathe in with my left nostril and I breathe out with my right, I'm snorting air Coke. It's not Coke, it's just air. But it's to loosen up the nitric oxide in your nose hairs and to open up those, the endothelial linings in your veins. And it's your blood vessels. And it's an energizer. Before laughter yoga. Check it out on patreon.com/Emil Amok. All right. We do close every show with a little laughter yoga. Oh, no, not laughter yoga, but the little loving kindness. Another L phrase. Loving kindness. Sharon Salzberg said, the best definition for mindfulness she got from a 10-year-old kid in Oakland, who said, mindfulness means I don't punch that guy in the face. And she is so right. I don't punch that guy in the face or gal because I'm being mindful. I don't get mad because I'm being mindful. I let things go. And I concentrate on what's inside. And it's been a great help. And it's from mindfulness. with a little forgiveness tossed in, and a lot of loving kindness. And so, as I wish for me, I wish for you. May you be safe. May you be happy. May you be healthy. And may you live with ease. Emil Guillermo here. Thanks for joining me. Back in tomorrow. What does an Asian American think? Right here on Emil Amok's Takeout. Till then, mahal kita.